In this video, I'm going to show you how to do the problems on the Chapter 4 practice test. For number 1, you're taking the cube root of negative 125, which is just negative 5. You don't really have to do any work for that. For number 2, you're doing the cube root of negative 64 squared. The cube root of negative 64 is negative 4, and then you're going to square that, so you're going to get 16. For number 3, the easiest way to do this is to reduce 12 into 96, which gives you the cube root of 8, which is 2. For number 4, because the 3's have the same base, you can add these exponents together here. If those were different numbers and they weren't both 3's, then you would have to distribute the negative 6 first. You would not be able to add the exponents. You can only add them if the bases are the same. So if I add 5/3 and 1/6, that's really the same thing as 10/6 plus 1/6, which is 11/6. You can also use your calculator. The next part, when you have an exponent to another exponent, you can multiply those two exponents together. That gives you 3 to the negative 11, which is 1 over 3 to the 11th power, which is 1 over, and then when you would put 3 to the 11th in on your calculator, which is, I need to put it in my calculator, 177,147, and that's in the denominator. Make sure your fraction bar is long enough to cover all of the numbers. For number 5, you do the cube root of 54, which is 3 times 3 times 3 times 2, x to the 6. You can write these out, or you can put them into multiples of 3. So 6 is divisible by 3. You can do y to the 3rd times y squared. And then for z to the 11th, I'm going to go ahead and do z to the 9th and z squared. The reason I'm putting them into those numbers is because the 6, the 3, and the 9 are all divisible by the 3 that's in the outside, which is the index. Then I'm going to also circle those. So I've taken out a 3, x squared, because you divide 6 by 3, this exponent by that index. And then y, there's one group of y. For the z, there's 3 groups of 3, so that's z to the 3rd. And then in the radical, you're left with a 2, a y squared, and a z squared. So for number 5, you get 3 x squared y, z to the 3rd, cube root of 2 y squared, z squared. For number 6, the negative 1/3 applies to everything. So you have to do y squared to the negative 1/3. That gives you y to the negative 2/3. Then you have to do 27 to the negative 1/3. And I'm just going to write 27 to the negative 1/3. You don't multiply 27 times negative 1/3 because 27 is not an exponent. So you do multiply the exponents together. Okay? Same thing here. You're going to multiply those two exponents together. Negative 1/3 times negative 6, which is going to give you x squared. After you do that, give me some room here. You're going to have another fraction still. I'm going to go in order. So I'm going to do the numeric value first. So 27 to the 1/3. That's going to move up to the numerator because you have a negative exponent. Then I'm going to do the x variable in alphabetical order. So x squared is positive, so I'm going to leave x squared in the denominator. And y to the negative 2/3, I need to make that positive, so I'm going to make it 2/3 in the denominator. 27 to the 1/3 means the cube root of 27, which is 3. And then the x squared y to the 2/3 just remains x squared y to the 2/3. So for number 6, you have a 3 at the top. You have an x squared y to the 2/3 in the numerator. For number 7, when you have addition and subtraction, you do all of the simplifying separately. You cannot combine those. So you're going to do 5 times the square root of 63, which is 3 times 3 times 7. 112 is 28 times 4, which is 2 times 2 times 7 times 2 times 2. So I have 15 square roots of 7. 2 times 2 times a 2, that's already out there. That's 8 square roots of 7. So that gives you 23 square roots of 7. For that was number 7. For number 8, we need to find g minus f of x. So g of x is 3x to the third minus 5x squared plus 6x minus 9. That's this one. But we're subtracting the f of x function, so we're going to subtract the f of x function. 2x to the third plus 4x squared minus 8x plus 4. So we have to distribute that minus sign. So it becomes minus 2x to the third. Basically, all of these signs will change. And then we'll combine like terms. So we have, that was a 3x to the third here. So we do the x to the third functions first. That's x to the third. Then we have the x squared. So minus 5x squared minus 4x squared. It's minus 9x squared. Plus 6x plus 8x. That's plus 14x. And for the last term, we have minus 9 and minus 4. That's minus 13. Then we're going to plug in a negative 2 into that equation. So when I plug in a negative 2 into that equation, that's going to give me negative 2 to the third minus 9 times negative 2 squared, so that's 4, plus 14 times negative 2 minus 13. So it's going to be negative 8 minus 36 minus 28 minus 13. So everything is negative. Since everything is negative, you can just add all of those numbers up. So we're going to have 8 plus 36 plus 28 plus 13. It gives you 85, but because they're all negative, you're going to have negative 85. For number 9, you're going to have f plus g of x. So you're going to have f of x plus g of x. And since those are alike, you're just going to have 4x to the 2/3. You just combine like terms. Nothing happens to the exponents. Then we're going to evaluate at 27. So it's going to be 4 times 27 to the 2/3, which is 4 times the cube root of 27 squared, which is 4 times 3 squared, which is 4 times 9, which is 36. For number 10, you're multiplying f times g of x. So it's f of x times g of x. The exponent for the x is 1. So you're going to multiply the two numbers together. That gives you negative 8. And then you're going to add 2/3 plus 1 for the x's, the exponents. So that's going to give me negative 8x, and then that's 2/3 plus 3/3, so that's 5/3. So that's negative 8x to the 5/3. When I plug in a negative 8, and I get negative 8x, not x, excuse me. We're plugging in a negative 8 there for x, so negative 8 to the 5/3. So negative 8 cube root of negative 8 times 5. So it's going to be negative 2 to the fifth, negative 8 times negative 32. It's 240 and 16. So that's 256. When you're dividing, you're going to take the f of x function and divide by the g of x function. So again, this is an exponent of 1. So we divide the negative 4 into 2. So that gives you negative 2. And then we're going to subtract 1 minus 2/3. So that's 1/3. But that's in the denominator. So that's negative 2 over x to the 1/3 power. And then we're going to plug in a negative 8 for the x. So it's going to be negative 2 over negative 8 to the 1/3, which is negative 2 times the cube root of negative 2. Negative 8. Which is negative 2, so that's 1.